The new Ant-Man movie is cringy. In this video, I'm going to share 3 reasons why it's so awkward and talk about the future of the MCU if things continue in this direction. Let me start by saying that I've been a fan of the MCU since it started. I've been following all the major projects over the years, so this video isn't about hating on Marvel, but rather analyzing where it can go wrong. I'm not a hater, I'm a lover. That didn't sound right. So why does Ant-Man 3 seem so cringy? Well, there are 3 aspects that I want to look at to explain why I left the theater feeling this way. They are the design, the dialogue, and the tone of the film. From a basic visual standpoint, the design behind Ant-Man 3 is just weird. It's also set in a really weird place. The story is set in the quantum realm, which is a microscopic dimension where time and space work differently. It's a mysterious place with mysterious people, so basically that means there are no rules for the artists who are designing the creatures and the landscapes for the movie. The new characters and locations definitely have that wacky comic book feel to them, with some being universally interesting and others being just too silly to take seriously. And speaking of not being able to take seriously, I'm going to say one word that really sums up the cringy design: MODOK. The design of MODOK's character is odd, it's off-putting, and it's also laughable. When the character is revealed for the first time in the movie, someone in our theater legit laughed out loud, and for good reason. From a design standpoint, MODOK is one of the most cringe-looking comic book characters I've ever seen. With the giant head and the little arms and legs, I think he is a good reminder that all of these superhero movies we love really are based on comic books, and there's a reason why comic books were not popular for a long time. Cringy design. Real quick about the music, the Quantumania theme song that plays over the credits at the end is honestly pretty solid, but for the most part, the original soundtrack kind of went unnoticed for me. That is until I saw the names of the songs on the soundtrack. Here are just a couple, but you kind of get the idea that whoever came up with these titles might have had a few drinks beforehand. Cringe.
You're not the one with the hammer.
That's Thor. We get confused a lot. Similar body types. Who are you?
The dialogue in Ant-Man 3 kind of reminds me of Thor Love and Thunder, which is not a good thing. The drama isn't dramatic, and the comedy really isn't that funny. The previous movies in the Ant-Man trilogy relied a lot on comedy because Ant-Man can shrink, he can grow himself and objects, so the action and humor were of course exaggerated and funny. In this movie though, the jokes from Paul Rudd fall flat, with barely anybody laughing in the theater that we were in. Michelle Pfeiffer plays her role in a overly stoic way. Even Michael Douglas's character had some weird lines. At one point he said something like, "You know, we could learn a thing or two from ants. Socialism, anybody? Huh?" So that was a little weird. Also, MODOK couldn't really be taken seriously, so really the only character that had some depth was Kang. The performance by Jonathan Majors is excellent, and it's one of the only likable parts of this movie. Playing a genocidal villain who can somehow convince us that there are worse versions of himself out there is honestly a hard task, but Majors delivers on it, so I'm really looking forward to seeing more of him in the MCU. Perhaps the biggest cringe factor is the drastic differences in the tone of the story. We have Kang the Conqueror, known for genocide and chaos on a universal scale, and he's going up against Ant-Man, who is constantly cracking jokes about his job at Baskin-Robbins. So there is a real disconnect as to what this movie is trying to be. Is it serious? Is it a comedy? They tried to do both, but the formula just wasn't right. The best example is at the end of the movie, where Scott is walking down the street talking to himself. He feels conflicted about trapping Kang and if he made the right decision. You know, did he save the universe or did he just doom everybody? They build that serious tension for a few seconds, and then he goes, "Nah, it's probably all good." It's that sharp contrast of building serious tension and then almost immediately shrugging it off as a joke that just doesn't feel right. So that's why it seems there's no clear tone or message over the story, and it just makes me cringe. So with Phase 5 underway with a not so hot start, what does the future of the MCU look like? For those that have been following the MCU over the years, I want to ask you a question. Do you like the multiverse? Initially, it seemed like fun back in 2019 with Endgame, when the Avengers traveled across the multiverse to save their timeline. But that movie only kicked the door wide open to multiverse storytelling, which has taken over every level of the MCU. Movies, Disney Plus series, TV specials. We've known that Phase 4 through 6 of the MCU is called the Multiverse Saga, but the question remains, have you been enjoying it so far? For me, the standout work from Phase 4 has been the Loki series and Spider-Man No Way Home, with almost everything else in between feeling kind of empty. But here's the thing, I know several people who were hardcore MCU fans that were burnt out from all the content you have to keep up with in order to know the full story. I think that's the drawback Marvel and Disney will be dealing with at some point. Yes, there is a small group of hardcore fans who actually read the comics and will watch literally anything from Marvel. However, the mainstream audience feels overwhelmed, and eventually the popularity and likability of the MCU is gonna go down. It's hard to say exactly when that will happen on a large scale, but after conversations with people who were super fans and now don't even care anymore, that means it's probably happening sooner than you think. Watch one of these videos next if you want to see more content about the MCU on my channel, and I'll see y'all later.